What's going on everybody, and welcome back to another U.C. Engage video. Those of us playing the global version of this game are in a bit of a unique position because the JP version has already been out for 2 years, so we're way behind in terms of content. That being said, this also means that we have the benefit of already knowing the suits that will be coming to the game in the future, and we can use that info to decide whether or not we want to spend our diamonds. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the top 10 suits I'll personally be looking out for when they get added to the global version of U.C. Engage. If you enjoy this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Gundam content, and let's get right into it. The first question we need to ask is, what am I looking for when I'm deciding whether or not to pull on a banner? There are many different factors to consider when you're making this decision, but for now we're going to focus on 2 main things. First, does this suit fill a gap in my roster? Right now, because we're so far behind, we haven't seen every unit type the game has to offer. Remember that there are 7 different categories: Raid, Armored, Generic, Bombardment, Sniper, Close Combat, and Support. Me personally, I want to eventually get to a point where my collection has one really strong option in each of these categories for each of the 5 colors. For some combinations you have a lot of options, whereas for others you may only have a couple. The second and most important thing I'm considering is, does this suit have unique skills that go beyond simply dealing damage in the case of an EX skill, or boosting 1 or 2 of its stats. I want skills that can either affect my allies or the enemy team, or provide some sort of unique effect. Essentially what it boils down to is I want suits that have the ability to change the overall state of the game. I'll give you an example. Around the new year, we had the Extreme Limited banner for Sazabi, but hidden in that banner was a chance to drop the Sisqueed, which is a purple sniper unit. I didn't care about the Sazabi personally, even though I did end up getting it, but I was pulling on that banner specifically to drop the Sisqueed. Why, you ask? Sisqueed is what's called a sweeper, meaning it can hit all enemy units at once with its EX skill. And as if that wasn't strong enough, it also debuffs them by reducing their beam damage by 20% for 20 seconds. Most suits in this game use beam weapons, so this is absolutely busted. Sisqueed doesn't leave my arena team because not only can I hit the entire enemy team at once, but the damage debuff basically causes their DPS to come to a halt while the rest of my team keeps lighting them up. That's what I mean by skills that can change the state of the game. One other thing I want to mention is that all these suits on my list are either on the arena or raid tier list on the JP Wiki, which I'll link in the description. But just because a suit isn't on a tier list doesn't mean it's not worth pulling for. Remember that the most important thing is how the suit fits the needs of your squad. With all that in mind, let's get into this list. At number 10, we have the Thunderbolt Ver, a red armored suit. This is not a joke, and as a side note, I love that in this game a grunt suit like this can actually be viable. This thing is B tier in the arena, which isn't surprising because armored units can be put in your front line to protect the rest of your team. But its main benefit is the ability to taunt enemies. At the start of the battle, it applies the provocation status for 8 seconds, forcing all enemies to target it. During this time, your other 5 units will be able to freely attack without the risk of taking damage themselves. As an armored unit, it also has the health to withstand some extra damage, which will hopefully keep it alive while the rest of your team goes wild. On top of that, its skills allow it to recover 480 HP and increase EX skill damage by 3.5% when receiving damage. So not only is it getting a small amount of health back whenever it takes damage, but with all 5 enemies attacking, it's going to build EX really fast, and its EX skill deals 1443% attack, which is really strong. In 9th is the Full Armored Double Zeta Gundam, which is a blue armored unit. To start, Phaz deals 1385% damage with its EX skill and also increases the damage of all blue allies by 26% for 20 seconds after activation. However, its unique skill is that it reduces EX skill damage to itself by 99%. This is extremely valuable in the arena because as you go up higher and start fighting whales with max transcendent units, you're going to see a lot of EX spam because max transcendent level gives you half your EX gauge back immediately at the start of battle. Phaz does receive the unavoidable state at the start of battle, meaning it can't dodge at all, but its guard rate is increased by 55%, and whenever it does take damage, it recovers 3% EX gauge, getting you to that allied buff faster. Up next in 8th is the new Gundam, but the green generic one, not the red one that's already in game. You know how the red one is a squad healer? Yeah, this one does that, but better. Not only does it heal 22% of all allies' HP on EX skill activation, but it also gives all green allies a 26% damage boost for 20 seconds. Healing effects are strong in this game not just for the obvious reason of helping your squad survive longer, but many backline suits also get massively increased damage if they remain above certain HP thresholds. The Nu also gradually increases its beam damage, evasion rate, and EX gauge recovery over time, making it a really solid all-rounder. In 7th is the NTD Full Armor Unicorn, a red bombardment suit. This one is another sweeper that can hit all enemies with its EX skill, but it also does an additional 326% damage to any unit with the Psycho Frame type or New Type Machine unit categories. It also has 55% increased accuracy against those two types, so this thing is entirely a Psycho Frame and New Type counter. And in case you haven't noticed, a large percentage of the top tier suits fall under one of those two categories. It does receive the unavoidable state at the start of battle like Phaz, but receives 99% less damage as a trade-off. At number 6 we have the Double Zeta GR, a yellow armored suit that falls under S tier for Arena. Its EX skill deals 1154% damage, increases its beam damage by 50% for 20 seconds, and recovers 45% of max HP. Its other skills also give it stacking bonuses to both beam and range damage whenever it deals damage, granting it double buffs for its main and third weapons. But the real kicker is, it has a skill that reflects 33% of all beam damage received. Think about that for a second. Like I said before, most suits in this game use beam weapons, and this unit can reflect a third of any beam damage it receives back to the sender. That is absolutely busted. This thing is a beast of a frontline. Halfway through in 5th is the O, but not the original one, the Man Returning from Jupiter version that's a purple armored. This version has a special skill called Lethal EX, where on the first EX skill activation it fires a whole goddamn warship barrage from the Dogus gear. This barrage deals damage to the area around the targeted enemy every 10 seconds, and any other enemies unfortunate enough to get near will get caught in the crossfire. The EX itself also increases its beam damage by 39% for 20 seconds after activation. Its guard rate is increased by 55% right from the start of battle, and every time it guards, it gets 17% increased beam damage, 6% EX recovery, and 764 HP. Surely it can't have anything else, right? Think again. It also gets perfect guard for 4.6 seconds when receiving damage, and after fully transcending, it gets 1236 HP back when guarding, and 999% resistance for the first 15 seconds of battle, making it basically unkillable during that time. In 4th place is the Ez8, a green support unit. This suit is a crit buffing machine, but what really makes it attractive is its ability to buff allied bombardment types, making it a really good pairing for top tier suits like Zeong, S Gundam, and NTD Full Armor Unicorn. It gives 14% increased crit rate to all allies with another 28% for bombardments. EX skill gives both 25% crit attack power to all allies and an extra 50% to bombardments for 20 seconds. After transcending, another 36% increase to crit rate and 45% increase to crit attack to all allies for 30 seconds each. If you can keep this unit alive by sticking it behind a tank, your backline suits are going to clean up. To start off the top 3 we have the Gyan, a purple support that basically acts like a matador. Somewhat similar to the Rickdon from earlier, one of its skills forces all enemies to focus on armored units for the first 15 seconds of battle. All your remaining non-armored units can then roam freely and attack while the enemy's attention is directed elsewhere. While Gyan is alive, it also gives your armored units 38% reduced damage taken, which will hopefully help them survive those first 15 seconds. The other cool effect Gyan has is it reduces all damage taken by Zeon affiliated allies, and this damage reduction is increased depending on the number of Zeon allies in your squad. In the same vein, after using its EX skill, it gains a damage boost for each Zeon ally in your team. And just to clarify, in this case the Zeon tag is mainly on 1-year war era suits, because Zeon suits from different time periods will have different tags. But these skills give it great synergy with popular picks such as Zeong, Psycho Zaku, and Blue Destiny Unit 2. Coming in at number 2 is the Todesritter, a purple generic, and I'm not gonna lie, part of my reason for wanting this thing is just because I love the suit itself. That being said, it's S tier in Arena and A tier in Raids for a reason. This thing is crazy strong. Todesritter mainly acts as a new type counter. It has 55% increased accuracy and 120% increased beam damage against new type machines, and its EX skill damage is doubled if the target is a new type machine. This makes it really effective against a lot of top tier suits like Zeong, Zeta, and the O. It also gets a stacking beam damage buff for 20 seconds when dealing damage, and can recover 68% of both max HP and EX gauge once during battle when its health drops below 50%. Top that off with 43% increased evasion and 60% increased crit rate for 20 seconds each after using EX, and this suit is a menace. Last but not least, at number 1 is Zeong, a blue bombardment suit. Zeong is another sweeper unit whose EX hits all enemies, but also deals an additional 326% damage to enemies with the protagonist unit category. And let me tell you, there are so many protagonist units. Basically every main Gundam from 0079 all the way to Victory has this category, so there's a good chance that anytime Zeong uses its EX skill, you'll at least hit 1 or 2. Its EX also gives all Zeon allies 26% increased damage for 20 seconds, so if you pair it with Gyan like I mentioned earlier, you can give your Zeon allies both increased damage and damage reduction. And unlike most other backline units, Zeong actually gets buffs when its health drops, getting a 60% increase to evasion and 100% increased defense when its health drops below 40%. Those are the top 10 suits I'll be looking out for when they come to the global version of U.C. Engage. This is by no means an objective tier list or anything like that, so don't feel like you need to pull for every single one of these yourself. At the end of the day, the suits you choose to pull on will be specific to you. So let me know in the comments which suits you guys will be keeping some diamonds in reserve for, and why do you want them added to your squad. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a positive rating to help me in my boss battle against the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.